Hey everyone, welcome to my Adobe Animate CC symbols and classic tweens video. In this video I'll be covering shapes, symbols, classic tweens, and some of the effects you can put on them. I'll probably be making a video on some of the advanced features of effects and filters, but for right now I'll just be covering the basics. Okay, for starters, I'll just put a square shape out on my stage. Just click R on your keyboard or select the rectangle tool in your toolbar over here. Place out a square box. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, make sure you've got the whole box selected. If you place out a shape and then you just click on it once, you may just select the inside layer and not the actual lines on the outside. It's easily fixable later on if you want to change that or if you accidentally do it like this. But for right now, what you want to do is just double click on the shape itself or grab your select tool and select the whole box like so. Okay, now right click and go to convert to symbol. You get this symbol box pop up with a name. Do write in a name here. For this purpose I'll just write box. Now just do Control C on your keyboard to copy or right click and select the copy on the menu there. On your timeline, just add another blank keyframe on the end here, preferably about 30 frames after your first frame, and you should see nothing on your stage now. For starters, I'll just paste in place. So you can right click and do paste in place, or you can do Control Shift plus V. Okay, so you should have no difference if I move along the timeline like this. Now what you want to do is click somewhere along this timeline here, right click, and then select Create Classic Tween. You won't notice any difference unless you change the symbol on this second frame here. So if I grab this box and move it to the right, you'll see if I move across the timeline, it'll actually move across in increments. So if I just play that animation, it'll just go from the left to the right. But if I just undo that, take it back to where it was, you can actually rotate the box too. If you grab your free transform tool up here, you can grab the corner and rotate your box. Just go to like a 90-degree angle for instance. And now if I play that animation, it'll rotate in that direction. You can see I can do 180 degrees, but if I go above 180, it'll actually go the opposite direction. So if you want something to spin full 360, it can be a bit more difficult than you might expect. So if I just loop it to 360, there is no animation. It's exactly where it started, so it doesn't want to move. If you want to change the scale of your object, just select the free transform tool up here, or Q on your keyboard, grab one of the corners and just drag it to where you want. If you want to lock the vertical and horizontal movement to the same, just hold shift while you're doing this. And the same goes for expanding your object. Just drag it outwards. With the free transform tool selected, you can actually select on the sides here and actually skew the object to one side or another. This can actually be quite a powerful tool if you're using it correctly. And when you're animating with Classic Motion Tween, you can actually do all of these features in one animation. So if I want to bring the box down over here to the side and change the scale, rotate it, and skew it, I can actually do all four of them at the same time. So if I just play that animation back, you can see the symbol moves in many ways. Okay, for now I'm just going to put the symbol in the center of the stage. So if you want to do that, just click on the Align tool over here on the side. Under Align here, just click on the middle one, Align Horizontal Center, and Align Vertical Center. And I want to do this for the second frame as well. In the Properties tab, if you have a symbol selected, you can go over here and go Add Filters. Especially just adds effects to the symbol itself. So you can do such things as drop shadow. You can see this is creating a shadow that's falling behind the box. You can have this work with any objects. You will want to change this to your light source, and you got your strength over here and blur. You can actually change the blur quality from just one side, your X angle, your Y angle separately, or you can select the lock tool here and they'll lock and stay the same to each other. And distance down here will just increase the distance of the shadow. If you want to disable a filter from your view, just select the eye icon over here to make it disappear. And if you want to delete that filter, just select the bin icon as well. You also have blur. Blur is quite a powerful tool, but some of these tools can actually slow down your animation in Adobe Animate. When you have a rendered product, it's not going to get affected by it, but you want to be aware that your frame rate might be slowed down if you have lots of filters on your symbols. So blur just does what it says. It blurs your symbol. You have blur X, which is your X angle. Blur Y, which is your Y angle, obviously, and the quality of the blur. Sometimes you might want a lower quality blur, sometimes you might want a high quality blur. And for rendering, it's not going to affect your frame rate, so you can stick it to high or low. just depending on what your preferences are. So you can see if I max out the blur filter here, I can barely make out what this object is. But having filters actually works with classic Tweens. So if I go up to the timeline here, and go back to the frame 1, you'll see that the box appears again. But if I slowly move across, you'll see the blur filter slowly creep in until it's maxed out again. And one thing handy about this, if you want to add in a frame in the center, like say for instance I want to add a frame here, I can right click, go insert keyframe, and it will just paste a frame where that is. But if I select this now, you'll actually see how much blur is on that object during that frame. So I might want to move that frame closer to here so it blurs slowly and then speeds up at the end. So I'll just replay that. And if you just want to remove these frames, just right click on the frame you've got selected and just do clear keyframe. And that'll just reset it back to how I had it before. Same thing, if you want to remove this filter, let's go to the side here, find the filter you want to remove, and then just select delete filter. We've also got the glow effect here. When using classic Tweens for movement, to actually make the movement look smoother, you might not have acceleration and slow down on the object. If you just have it move from left to right, like this, in one frame, you'll just see it just jerks over and moves at one space and then just stops. There's no fluidity to it. There's no actual movement that a normal object would have. It seems very robotic. What might be a good thing to do for just shapes, and if you're having a car move left to right or something like that, you might insert a frame closer to the actual finishing point. So I'll just add a frame here and I'll just drag this out a bit more. That way it feels like it's actually coming to a stop. And you can do the same thing for acceleration too. I can add a keyframe on the third frame here and just drag it out a few frames, and you'll actually see it takes a little bit to start out and then it takes off and then slows down right before it stops. There's a little bit of acceleration and there's a little bit of braking at the end of it too. You can do the same thing for stretching and squeezing your animations. It can work really well to bring some of your animations to life if you're doing cartoons, or if you're doing something more with a bit more pull and stretch and skew and squeeze. It can bring your animations to life. But some people want a more realistic look to it that doesn't have some of those features on it. So for instance, if I wanted to insert another frame here, so I just add a little bit of a bounce to the end of it, just to give it a bit more momentum. And obviously I'm just doing this really fast, so it's not perfect or any by any means, but I'm just giving you an idea of how you can use these tools to animate certain objects. And say for instance, if you want to make so when the box goes fast, you want to put a blur on it or something, you just select where the part is, where you want to add the effect to it, select the object you want, click filters, click on blur, for example, and because this is moving left to right, I probably just want to put a blur on that angle, not on your vertical angle. So I just put a blur on, like, say, the blur X. I'll just turn that up a little bit. Do the same for the other frame, and you'll see it actually, the blur goes away once it stops, and the blur goes away on the frames that it isn't affecting. If you want to add an effect to all the symbols in your timeline, just select the edit multiple frames up at the top here. And then you want to drag out these bars, the frames you want to select. So if I want to select them all, get your selection tool, select all the objects, or do Control A to select all. Click on the actual object itself, and then just do add filter. If you have filters on already, you'll get this pop-up saying this filter's already applied. And if you add this filter onto all of them, it will override that filter. So I was just doing that for example, so I just select cancel. But if you do want to override that, then you can press OK. But if you weren't aware there was that same filter on the timeline, this can be a good thing to show you that you have filters on. So make sure you turn off the edit multiple frames option up here for this sort of animation. You could have the blur filter be on for like this frame, and then this frame where it's a bit slower, you could turn on filters, do a blur here, but then have it a little bit weaker. So you're actually getting more of a movement with the filter itself. So I might just add in a couple of these just to give you an example. Let's play that back. And if it does look a bit choppy or slow, when you're playing the animation, just keep an eye on the frame rate up here. Your frame rate might drop down if you have multiple layers or filters on, so just keep an eye on that. Also, if you ever need to edit an object, just double click on it and it will go into the editable window in here. You can actually create symbols within that symbol itself or within that object itself, and then have those objects move within the symbol. It can be a little bit complex for starting out, so I might show that off in another video, but just know that it's there, so you can do that later on. So for example, if I wanted to make this as a car or something, I could draw it into a car and then have wheels rotating in the symbol itself, or characters in the car animating and turning a steering wheel or something like that. I also forget to mention that you've got color effects on the side here. They're sort of same as filters. A little bit, it's more to do with the colors though, but you can turn on like alpha, for example. You got your alpha bar here, turn up or down. Your tint, so you can change the color of the symbol, like so. And the strength of the color of the symbol too, so you can make it really bright or just a little bit of a tint. So if you've got an object that's passing through a street light, for example, or past a flame, and you want to have that light illuminate onto the object, or you want the object to be affected in some way, you can use the tint option. You've also got the brightness option, which is similar to the tint option. You can either make something dark or make something light. So that could be useful for the same sort of thing. If you have a character that's going into something and getting darker, you can have that object or that character turn darker. And then you have advanced here, which is sort of like a combination of alpha and tint in one. So if you're trying to tint something as well as do alpha on it, the advanced option's what you want to go for. And the same thing goes for the color effects as it does for the filters. It will affect your objects in the timeline, so that animation will happen in the timeline. And similar to filters, if you want to remove the color effect, just click on the option you selected and just click none, and that'll remove the effect. And also, if you're trying to add on any of these effects onto an object, just make sure it is an object. If I break this apart, for example, and select this, you'll see the filters options isn't here. You'll have different options here, but it's related more to shapes, not an actual object. So just make sure, if you're looking for filters or something, just make sure you've converted it into an object or a symbol. Otherwise, that option won't appear. When you select the shape on the stage, you won't get those options unless it's been converted into a symbol. That'll probably be it for this video. I might have forgot some things for this video, but I'm also planning on showing some more advanced stuff in the coming videos. So some of those things that I haven't discussed here, I might be leaving out of this video just to cover in a later video. I plan to cover guidelines, shape tweens, frame-by-frame animation, and the effects at a more advanced way in another video, but just for now, I just wanted to present the basics of these things for later on. But yeah, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and stick around for the following videos because they'll be getting interesting. See yous.